Hey, Vinyl Community, Jeff here again, and it is time for some VCLT, showing some VCLT. So I got some stuff in the mail from one Mr. Red. So if you're familiar with Redco Music, he's been around forever. His channel name changes a little bit. He still lists as Redco Music, but he's a world traveler and a vinyl music collector of all kinds, and he has been around probably a lot longer than I have, it seems like. His name is always coming up. And he is here and there and all over the place. But we have done some VCLT in the past, but out of the blue the other day, he reaches out to me. Hey, Jeff, is this still your address? I want to send you some stuff that I'd like you to help me clear out from my collection that I think you'd appreciate more, is basically the idea behind it. And he sent me some pictures of a bunch of stuff. A handful of it I did have, but a handful of it I didn't. And a handful of it, a few of them were like high on my list of things I wanted to get, and I'm like, I can't believe you're giving these to me. And so I was like, yeah. So I pick and choose from what he had that I did not have, and let's see what it is we got. One of the ones, and I say high on my list because these are items that I really want to get one day, and they're not like reissued or whatever, They're not like grails, but they are things that were, yes, one day I want to get that. And for one of them is the Betsy album. So Betsy, Betsy Weiss is her name, 80s band. So Betsy was the lead singer for the band Bitch. They had a couple albums out back in the day, like on Metal Blade or whatever. Those are high on my list too. I don't have any of those on vinyl, just digital or CD versions of that. So those are things that I want to get. But getting her one of her solo albums was right up there with it. So Betsy did quite a bit back in the day. I think she has at least, I forget how many albums there were with the band, at least 3 or 2 in an EP, or 1 or 2 or 3. And then she started doing some stuff under this, and she's done some other material. It's kind of neat because I don't know what else she did after that, but as far as recording, you see a lot of this stuff. Then I'm sure she's probably done stuff out there that we're not familiar with. But then in 2015, she popped up on a Thor album, Metal Avenger. You can see her maybe right there with Thor. She has blonde hair here. But yeah, so she showed up here. This was in 2015. She pops back up and does some stuff on here. But this Thor album had a lot of guests on it. It had everybody had Henry Rollins on here. It had, JJ French, formerly, Twisted Sister, Fast Eddie Clark from Fastway and things. And it had Betsy on here. So anyway, it's cool to see that. But some of the early stuff that Betsy was with, both band and solo, are things up on my list there. As was this album, DC Lacroy. I don't think they've done this album. I don't think it's ever been reissued. It's from the 80s, 89 I think, or so, 80 something. It's just one of those obscure bands. It was on Medusa Records, which Medusa isn't that a brand of like Enigma, or I remember Medusa Records back in the day. So it was kind of a minor major label release. Something I really want to get, that I really wanted to get. So I was surprised to see this on the list, so we grabbed that. Again, I'm not sure if they had anything else. They might have been something else after that, but this is the one main one that you see showing up a lot. So I was surprised that he had a copy of that in there. And then the other one, which I've seen a lot, I've heard, but never have owned, and that's the XYZ album. Just, that straight up sound of the late 80s, early 90s. It sounds like it would look like it looks. This is what you would expect. Just one of those albums that, and that one is on Enigma. So there you go, Enigma Records. That's interesting. Anyway, I wonder where he got these from. If he got them from something back in the day, I don't know. I do notice that most of them are cutouts, so that it's kind of hard to find these albums nowadays. So I'm sure there's a lot of those out there that were cut out from back in the day, and I appreciate that altogether. I don't mind it at all. Great stuff having original copies. So those 3 were the ones that I'm like, oh wow, I can't believe you have those. Some of the other ones, like I say, I had, and then there were some other ones that I've had on my I wish list to pick up at some point if I ever run across them, and here they are. So we got Nasty Savage. Again, yeah, it's a cutout there. I don't have any Nasty Savage, and this is on Metal Blade Records. So just some of the classic bands back in the day that were early. When I say classic bands, just to define that for people who, I know there are some watchers that view it differently. Classic as an old. some of the early founders, some of the, the early Metal Blade albums, the early classic releases that came out back in the 80s and that we grew up cutting our teeth on. And Nasty Savage was one of those that kind of popped up in that time frame. And they have an album that came out not too long ago, didn't they? There was something I had on my wish list that was a little more, maybe it was some reissues, I think. But I've never owned any of their stuff on vinyl. So I was like, wow, I get my hands on some Nasty Savage. Cool. I have, I think, a good amount of their stuff, digitally and or CD, but not on vinyl. Same goes for Juggernaut, Trouble Within. I believe this is probably another Metal Blade album. Yeah. The early Metal Blade stuff. Now, Metal Blade nowadays, not saying anything against it, but of course metal has changed. And so Metal Blade nowadays is more extreme. And I'm not as much, it's even got the order form in here. I'm not as much into the extreme stuff, but when it comes to the early, what I would say the classic Metal Blade stuff of the 80s, there's probably no bands in there that I probably would not want to have. That's just the early metal and thrash sound that Metal Blade did all through the 80s probably would be right in my wheelhouse. And so that, of course, Juggernaut would fit into that there. On the thrashy side of things, they have a handful of albums out. I'm pretty sure I have them all digitally of some sort. I've acquired them. But nothing on vinyl. I don't think I have any. Maybe I have one Juggernaut on vinyl. Maybe. Have to go look. I know I don't have this one though. But there you go. Some of that. And then the last one. I've seen this one around. I've seen this one for sale at places. I've seen people show it. I have no idea what the band's about. When I saw it on this list, I thought I'll take a chance because I've seen it. The cover itself is questionable to me. I can't tell from the cover if it just looks weird. Warp Drive, Gimme Gimme. I'm like, I don't know. I've seen it over the years. Never seen it in a while, or I probably would have bought it. But had I ever seen the back of it, I definitely would have bought it. That's the look. That's the look of anything that looks like that. If I run across it in the wild and don't know who it is, if it looks like that, it's going home with me. That's my look right there. That's my look. So, yeah, looking at the band, I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to like this. And so then I listened to it the other day, and it's just solid hard rock there. It's not as, to me, that screams 80s sleaze metal, but they're more of just a solid hard rock band. It's on Music for the Nation, so that's cool. Another one of those import labels that put out a lot of the stuff overseas that we found on Metal Blade and things like that. So, yeah. So this was cool to have. I'm glad I did opt to go with this to help take this off his hands because, again, I've seen it. The cover doesn't say anything to me. The cover doesn't say rock. It doesn't say it. The guitar kind of says rock, but the cover with all the hands, it kind of doesn't say that to me, and I'm not sure what I would do if I just saw the cover. And I've seen the cover, but I've never really stopped to give it attention. But now it's in my collection, and like I said, it turns out it looks better than it sounds better than it looks, and I'm glad to have that. So there you go. Thanks a lot, Red, for those. I appreciate that altogether. Some of these looking forward to finally having them in my collection. I was looking forward to that. Now we have them. So anyway, check it out. If you haven't seen Red's channel before, go check it out. He shows music and goes places and travels, and check him out. I'll put a link below for him, and I will see you later. Rock on and rock hard.